So, the next video, because there's one more video after this one. Obviously, you would have seen, because I'll be uploading them like 5 seconds apart. But the major thing with this is that I will be getting distracted. The main thing that I'm going to be saying is in the next video I'll be uploading season 7 and the final season of Elementaries. And I might be doing this more and more with other series I know are finished. Maybe I might do with an Owl House. I don't know. I will make that announcement. But I'm going to try doing all the episodes of Elementary season 1 to 7, which I think is 6 videos, ironically enough. Because I think So, Elementary. I think this is absolutely a fun, interesting show. So, I'm not going to be able to show you one of them because one of them is open. So, I've recently bought this. Here. Obviously, this is season 4 to 7 because currently the other one is open. And I'm currently watching the start of season 2, disc 1 of it. And yeah, season 1 sort of like brings up, and you see a lot of differences because the reason why I was like so interested in watching this because I watched someone analyze and was like, oh, this is why I'm not a fan of the BBC Sherlock Holmes, X, Y, and Z. And we're like, okay, so how do you do it nowadays? And they brought up Elementary. And I'm like, okay. I like Sherlock, and even though I do admit that the BBC version isn't the best, it is a good idea. So it's like, okay, let's look at Elementary. The only thing I know was I knew that John Watson, which is what it traditionally is now Joan Watson. And I know about Surgeon Gone, like that. But besides that, didn't know much. Besides also it takes place in New York instead of in London. And I think the other thing I sort of knew was there's something about like Moriarty and like a new twist and an interesting idea with Moriarty. I think in the video they do talk about Irene, actually, spoilers. They do talk about Irene being Moriarty, but I think I forgot that. Yeah, that was funny. It was like, oh my god, I didn't see this coming. And I'm like, wait, it was in the video that I'm literally being inspired to watch this. How did I forget that one specific detail? That seems very important. Which is funny. But I like the idea of like, one, the modern thing, and like, the other characters aren't dumb. The other characters aren't idiots. They do know what they're talking about. And they are sort of like slowly, the other people around them, the other detectives are slowly sort of like piecing it together. And it's really fun and just really interesting. And the crimes that happen definitely are like more modern because you have technology, you have hacking, which compared to Victorian England, that doesn't exist. So I just think it's fun, creative, and just overall just great. And I love the sort of arc that sort of like Joan Watson has in the first season. So yeah, I absolutely, definitely recommend to watch this. So I know I'm not going to do this, and I know this doesn't feel right because technically you should glow these two, but because it's just glowing 2 buttons, I don't feel like making 2 separate images because here's another 2 seasons, but this is going to be a bit longer than the last one, which is just 1 minute. So I'm also uploading this while I'm doing this. So, what do I think about this? Season 2, I thought was like really interesting as an idea. Just because of like what it was just insane. Bringing back sort of like Sherlock's brother, and having that be sort of like a mystery was, I think, one of the more funner ideas in all of it. And having that constant looming over it all was like, ooh, what's actually going on? What is the story? What is going on in this area? And why is it interesting to us? And I'm like, and I just realized that I need to reload it. So I just find it absolutely interesting, and how they bring.
So I'm doing 2 reviews today.
It's interesting as a concept. I'll just turn the sound off. I don't know why I've just done that at the beginning. I find it so fun and so interesting. And when we get into season 3, you get Kitty, which leaves halfway through, which I'm sad. That is the one thing that I was like, I wanted more Kitty, but I understand, and I like the idea of like sort of like season 3B is just a fun idea. And overall, I'm like, yeah, this is definitely really interesting as a concept, as an idea. And it is definitely fun. And when you get that alongside the storyline with, what was it? The storyline sort of is dealing with, not the storyline dealing with sort of like the mystery of like this person and who Kitty is, and it's like, because for the beginning of it, and then when you go to the next season 3B, you're dealing with this new thing of this sort of like new character, not as a villain at first, because like it's a bit interesting, and definitely we're dealing with a case that's like, oh, you're the killer, Sherlock. I'm like, and that idea and that whole episode I thought was fun, but how it ended was absolutely, you don't have this masterful tactician that's playing several moves ahead. You don't get that. You just get a guy who is doing this. And it is just interesting how, instead of it being like this big, like, villain, it's just a person. And that I do like. Just that simplicity of like, it's not a big bad, it's just a guy. And I think that's an interesting idea as a concept. Just one guy. So it's absolutely worth watching. So this is Elementary Season 4. And Elementary, because I started watching this because I found a review of sort of BBC Sherlock, and it's like, okay, you do modern day interpretation of Sherlock, Elementary is a better example. And I'm like, okay. And then I went to see it. And I've been loving it. It's one of the things that I'm constantly thinking of, do I think this is better than the BBC Sherlock? Yes. Because I like the idea that you don't have, like, here's the main rival, here's the main enemy, the opposite. Because, like, Season 1, you had Moriarty, and I think Season 2, you had glimpses of Moriarty. But in this, yes, you still have Moriarty's... Sorry, I think I saw something. You have sort of like the Moriarty legacy, the Moriarty sort of like the group that Moriarty set up. Actually, spoilers for that. That was spoilers. I shouldn't have said that. Anyway, you have bad, but you don't really have that of like that impact of like, here's Moriarty again and again and again. So that's the one thing which I think is good about this, is that this does feel fun. And the one thing I love is you have his father. His father is brought in to the picture. And what they do with his father, because his father's interesting as a character, as an idea. And as they have this idea here, because like, this is, and now here's the thing that I'm going into, because I've seen a bit of season 5, and I haven't started season 6 or 7. Actually, no, season 5, season 6, season 7. Why did I point to 1 and 2? Anyway, the one thing which I'm excited with is that they're bringing in these ideas. They're bringing in these characters. And the one thing I'm interested with, because you have a lot of the characters. You have Gregson. You have Lestrade, which is the British police officer, which I don't think they're going to bring back. That's not the point. And then you have Joan Watson being sort of like the Watson. You have Sherlock himself. And then you have Mycroft, Sherlock's father. But the one thing which I'm interested in, and is an actual character, and I actually think might be worth having as a character, is I don't know if they're going to use Alone. I think it's Alone. Or Eleanor. I always forget what Sherlock's sister's name is. I think that is the one thing I'm like, huh. They mentioned the brother, they mentioned the father, they have mentioned the mother, but I don't know if they're going to bring in the mother. They might bring in the mother. They have like, for me watching it, the show's over. The show's over, it doesn't matter. Whatever I say, it doesn't matter anyway. But like, in the season, I'm like, will they? They might bring back the mother, because in season 4, they get like, the mother. So they might, but I'm really interested if they're going to bring in, like, the sister. I don't know, that's not the point, that's just me thinking like, oh, what are we going to bring in next? But this is so interesting, and like, I'm so excited of where they're going to go next. I said I finished season 5. And yeah. And while I watch, and I think I mentioned it, I'm watching the DVD version of it. The one thing which I do is I watch the specials alongside it, like deleted scenes, gags, interviews, and a couple of like, I think the other thing is like they have a couple of like, no, that's it, interviews, and then they look about all the things and all of that stuff. And the one thing, besides season 1, which has a commentary, which is the only season, I think it's season 1 episode, like, I don't remember the episode, but one of the episodes had a, sort of, commentary on one of the episodes, which they haven't done on any of the others, which I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but that's besides the point. The one thing that they commentate in the season 5 is that, like, oh, we wanted something more to the ground, and like, I like that. We had this in season 4 with his father, with this all big, insane, like, thing happening, and then you have this more down-to-earth one, which I think is just more, has this interesting difference, and they also talk about the split, and what they do in season 5, I just love, because it all revolves around this one character. I'm not going to say who, because I feel like that counts as a spoiler, but how they use his character, how his sort of connections with Sherlock Holmes and Watson change over the sort of like season, because of like what he did do and how he wants to change, is just so brilliant in my opinion. It's just so good. And again, I love this series. I was one of the persons, again, the reason why I watched this is because someone was reviewing the BBC Sherlock, which is a modern day Sherlock from the BBC. And I was like, I love this. I like Sherlock Holmes, and I like that sort of like detective story. And they were reciting that this was supposedly a better version. And I'm on season 5, and I am still hooked on each and every episode. I haven't felt like one episode was like, oh, I've seen that. That's like this episode. That's like this episode. Each one's new. Each one's interesting. And the one thing that I agreed is that they, in the BBC one, and here's a bit on the BBC one as well, that you had Moriarty. It was Sherlock and Moriarty, which I know is a good thing. It is a thing that Sherlock supposedly has as a character. But I love that this one, season 4 had like the remnants of Moriarty's group, and I think season 2 was the last time we saw Moriarty. But at this point, she was a big part in season 1, season 2, I think, and a bit during the end of the last 2 episodes of season 4. But besides that, Moriarty's gone. And there's even other characters who sometimes appear, and I don't think they are. So I just find this absolutely interesting and a fun, unique angle to look at these characters. So I definitely recommend to watch it. It's season 6. I felt this because they mentioned in one of the specials, this isn't a spoiler, but they felt like they might have not got another season. Which makes sense because most of seasons 1 to this one has been sort of like 6 discs, just like. But season 7, which I am starting to watch, so I'm not going to mention anything from that. But season 7 has 3. So this feels like a wrap up. But that's not the point of this video. What they did in season 6, I think is really interesting. You can tell that, like, they mentioned it, especially where they didn't know if they were going to get another season. And this is sort of like wrapping up, tying up loose ends. I think they had they had like a couple of episodes that, not a couple as in 2, but like some episodes where bring back like characters that were in previous seasons, like Kitty and the maths guy and Sherlock Holmes' dad, and you get those sort of finales, you get those sort of like it finishes. It is so good in that way, as it sort of like wraps up the final sort of ending, finishes it off with a nice neat bow. It's just absolutely brilliant and insanely good. I absolutely 100% recommend this series. It is so good. So yeah, this is amazing and awesome in my opinion. So like I said in the last one, I know it says season 6, but you know. So I loved season 7. How it changed, and the sort of like main sort of bad guy in this. And at first I'm like, I get it. When you start being like trying to push his point later on in the season, which I thought was like going a bit too far, there were some moments where I felt like he was just trying to be like, I'm right. I'm like, okay, maybe he's not 100% right, but I get what he meant. I get what he sort of like felt. I understood why he felt that. I feel like there was probably other outcomes that you could do, and it's so insane.
this is just one of the more like interesting ideas. Bad now with people being like, this is what TikTok could be, but this was released, I think, before TikTok existed. I don't think TikTok was a thing when this was originally aired, but you know, I would like to point out TikTok does not do this. Caveat: TikTok doesn't do this. TikTok supports creators. TikTok supports small businesses. I want to put that in there before you get some corporate business people trying to cut me out and spread my word in false ways. But that's not important for this. I just thought this was absolutely insane as an idea. It was so cool. It was so awesome. And how it ended, I thought was brilliant, cool, and just so great. Like I said before, and this is probably either going to be here or when you watch the bigger one, there's going to be a full version where I get all of my episodes from it. So yeah, but this was so cool to watch.